Hello, everyone. Hello. Happy day before Thanksgiving here in the States. Happy Wednesday to everyone else. Just another day. I'm gonna go ahead and give everyone just a second to hop on. Hello, Amanda and Taylor. Welcome. My hair is looking a little crazy today, but we're gonna roll with it. I've got my red raspberry leaf tea, preparing my uterus, bouncing on my birthing ball. Hello, Bobby. And today's live. I just wanted to say hi, first of all, and connect with you guys because you know that I'm all about that. I mean, if it wasn't for community, I don't think I would be on Instagram because I get censored like crazy. I get shot, I can't say the word, but they hide me from the feed and from the algorithm. And I don't like condensing into an hour, or I don't like condensing into, a certain amount of words. But I come to Instagram for community. So that's why I'm here, and I wanted to connect with you guys. I don't know how many more of these I'll get to do before there is a tiny infant here who will then run the show. So I was like, let's go live. I've got some time before my next call. Just drinking my tea and wanted to share with you guys a little bit about switching from a hospital to a home birth and kind of my process there. I've gotten a lot of DMs about people curious about that, and like I actually have. I'm not just saying that. I know that's like such a cheesy term of like, I just have been getting a lot of DMs about this, but like genuinely people are curious. So I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about the infinite wisdom that your body holds. Because as we are navigating such chaos and uncertainty and unprecedented times and bullshit, quite honestly, I mean, God, 2020 has been such a roller coaster. I want you to really be able to come back into the body, and even if you're not pregnant, right? It's like you can use your body's wisdom to guide you right now, to be able to discern truth, to be able to unlock certain keys and codes within your body and your womb and your heart and your soul and your spirit, and really getting into the body and healing that trauma so that you can access that knowingness, right? That intuition, that discernment right now, and being able to anchor back into hope and into faith and into this, greater knowing and this greater faith and this greater picture at play. Because I think so many of us right now, especially, are kind of spinning out and drowning, and there's a lot of fear and a lot of chaos and a lot of anxiety, and again, so much unknown. I find it so fascinating that this baby chose to come now because, as if 2020 hasn't been enough of like, let's surrender and like, you don't actually control shit, then I decided, this baby decided to come through now, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Let's just throw a little extra drama and spice in there and, have ourselves a baby, for the first time. But obviously his soul has a plan, and he needs to come through now, and I'm so grateful for that. But it's been one hell of a freaking ride. So, hello, hi Jen, hello. Oh my gosh, Taylor, I'm so happy you could be here. Awesome. So, let's start. I'm also going to apologize if I'm out of breath. Even though the baby has dropped, like he's super low. Even my, I was getting my Brazilian today, and she was like, oh my God, she like was pushing like right on the front of my pelvic bone, and she was like, oh dear, like she was like, oh, he's like right here. I think he's just got really long legs and stuff, and is kicking all these things and all my organs where I'm like, ooh, that like, and I'm out of breath still. So we're rolling with it. We're going with it. It is what it is. But let's start with talking about hospital to home birth. So it has been such an interesting thing. If you would have asked me before 2020 if I would have ever considered a home birth, I would have laughed in your face. Kelsey, I'll say we weren't not trying. I haven't been on the pill for years. We don't use condoms. Typically just the good old pull-out method, if I'm being totally honest. But one night had a little bit of extra wine and decided to let's see, what happens, and just kind of decided to go for it. And I mean, I'm so grateful, but it was definitely a surprise. Like we have been together for, since 2007, and it's 2020 now, so 13 years, and like I said, been off the pill, and we've never had any even like true scares. So in all honesty, we thought that maybe something was off with one of us, and we were going to have to, if we wanted to have a family, like get tested and make sure everything was okay. But apparently, like, again, like I just think his soul needed now in this exact moment, and it really unfolded very divinely. And I do believe an aspect of that is also because we were so detached. We were so, like, we weren't trying or pushing or looking at anything specifically. It happened very divinely. And I say that, and part of me hurts saying that because I know that so many people struggle, and I never want to invalidate someone else's experience, but that's my experience. You know, I can hold space for mine, hold space for other people's. And yeah, we were just so detached from it. So yeah, it's really awesome, but it's been pretty wild. So yeah, so before 2020, I would have never even considered, even like had a little inkling to have a home birth, because as much as I love like a more holistic lifestyle, and I do try to be as natural as possible, I also really am grateful for modern medicine. And I'm also, I don't have a very like high pain tolerance, and I was terrified of birth. You know, I think that's very common in our society. A lot of us, you know, were conditioned very early on. Like I was conditioned within the church that like Eve ate the apple, she effed everything up for everybody, and pain is like going to be part of labor. Pregnancy's going to suck. Birth is going to suck. I had only heard really traumatic stories. And people love to tell those. They love to share their traumatic birth stories. And I'm all here for, I honor you, I see you, I validate your experience. I'm so sorry that happened to you, right? But at the same time, like that conditions our nervous system. That programs us to fear birth, right? Versus seeing birth as like, oh my God, my body was made for this. My body was designed for this. And yes, it's going to be intense. And yes, it's going to be painful. And yes, and then we can change the verbiage of that, and we can change the things of that. But it really is so much of it in the mind. And so before 2020, I was like, give me that epidural, you know, like get me in there, like get this baby in and out of me. Like I just want to tune it out, turn it off, numb it out, really, really and truly, to be totally transparent. And I can even feel energy moving already as I'm talking about it. But, you know, 2020 woke me up to so much, which I think it has for many of us, right? And if you have not subscribed to the Salt, Sage, and Wild Roses podcast yet on iTunes or Spotify, Autumn and I actually did a podcast a little bit on this topic yesterday too. And, you know, for me, I started to this year be like, interesting, there's more to the story. There's more here. There's other options. Fascinating. I had only known people up until this year who had hospital births, and there's nothing wrong with a hospital birth. Oh my God. Modern medicine saves lives, you know, epidurals, Pitocin, inductions and C-sections and all this. Like I'm so grateful that we have that. You know, like I watched the show Vikings with Joe months ago, and watching people die in childbirth, like our ancestors died, you know, like there's real shit that happens. Like I'm so grateful that we have those opportunities and those options. But what is so interesting is that it's almost like that's become so normalized that we don't even think that there's other options. And that's what got me thinking this year was, oh my gosh, how much of my life have I just been blindly going with what I've been programmed with when it comes to health, when it comes to birth, when it comes to pregnancy, when it comes to, you know, the big V word that I don't want to say, because I don't want to get banned. But how much of this am I really like attuned to and present with and empowered and educated around, and how much of it is that subconscious wiring that has been placed in me very early on. And so I had, you know, even early in the pregnancy, I was still like terrified of birthing a human. Like the idea of a human coming out of my vagina was like literally would give me the heebie-jeebies, and I would like get like physically have a reaction to the trauma in my body around it based on what I had consumed around pregnancy and childbirth, which had been, again, traumatic stories, all of the things, all of the interventions, you know, very medicalized. And again, modern medicine saves lives. I'm so grateful for it. But we've normalized it so much that I even watch a lot of like pregnant influencers, for example, where it becomes this kind of like cascade of interventions. And it's like, are we and again, sometimes that has to happen, but are we asking questions? Are we researching? Are we empowered and equipped around how many options we actually have, and how, honest to God, like normal and beautiful and expansive and healing and possible the whole birth process is, right? Granted, unpredictable things happen in birth. Again, I have a home birth plan, and if we have to transfer to a hospital plan, I've got both, right? I recognize things happen. And I'm going to stop disclaimering that now because I'm just going to fucking own it. And I'm not going to apologize for it. So again, I honor anyone's birth experience, and I honor wherever you feel comfortable giving birth. But I just started to ask this year, there's more to the story. Even with like what's going on right now with the Rona, right? There's more to the story. What is it going to take for us to start to question the narrative? Start to question what normal is, right? This whole thing, like we've just been so conditioned and so programmed to think a certain way. And do we actually feel empowered and equipped and capable of starting to ask questions and be curious and listen to the body, right? When I was thinking, okay, birth, like, oh my God, terrifying, and there's fear, and trauma in my body around it, I just started to sit with that of like, oh my God, like this can't be the way that it's meant to be. If it was, women wouldn't have multiple babies. We would have stopped having babies and procreating a hell of a long time ago. You know, what happened before modern medicine when our ancestors are giving birth in a freaking cave or in a tent, you know, like again, there's more here. What's here for me? Now, for me, I still had planned on, with my first baby at least, having a hospital birth, because it did give me a little bit of extra peace of mind knowing that if something was to happen, there was things there, like there's doctors, there's interventions, there's options. If I can't handle the pain, there's epidurals, whatever. But then with the Rona, restrictions at hospitals are getting really freaking strict and really intense, where women are birthing alone. Women are laboring and birthing with a mask on, even if they're negative for this virus, right? Like there's these things happening that intuitively in my body, I am like, there's no way in hell. Now, people tell me, well, I did it. People do it all the time. People do it all. Okay, cool. That's awesome for you. Something in my body's infinite wisdom is saying, that's not okay. My baby's first connection with me is not going to be me for the first 48 hours of his life with a mask on. Babies need to read emotions. They need to read energy. They need to connect with us. It breaks my heart when I see these first pictures of these moms and their babies and these beautiful pictures, and there's masks on. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's not safe. Like, it's not healthy for their development. Like to me, I'm just like, I get it if like the doctors want to wear one or the nurses want to wear one, or if I leave the hospital room, like I get it. Like I would do my part, right? But the idea of wearing a mask when I'm pushing a human out of me, like, I'm sorry, but oxygen is important. Not only for me, but for the tiny human inside of me, right? Like I get anxious just going to my doctor's appointments at the hospital with a mask on, and I'm just getting my vitals done. You know, my blood pressure is raised, my anxiety is going, I'm sweaty, because my mind is perceiving it as danger, as something is wrong. There is a threat here. You are not safe, right? My body has a trauma response to that experience. And so when I started, it was interesting because when I was thinking, okay, hospital, home, oh my God, this is an overwhelming decision. And I remember Joe, even he said it to me, my husband, he goes, you already get so anxious at the doctor. He was like, what happens when you walk in and you're in labor and you have that experience, and it's like a million times that, because not only am I getting my vitals done, I'm also having a human come through my body. And when I think of me and baby working together to bring him into this world, and I think of his journey and his story and how it's unfolding, because the beautiful thing about it is it's my experience of my rebirth, right? Or my transition from maiden to mother and really going into this kind of reemergence of me. Even more than that, he has his own story, his birth story, how he makes his presence known in the world. I hope that my internet's okay. I feel like I'm getting choppy. Reconnecting. Okay, there we go. I turned off my Wi-Fi. Hopefully that will help. But, you know, I think about it in terms of like his story. Like he has his own experience of what he needs as he comes into this world. So I had to think it's not even, for me, this is how I made my decision. That's the whole reason I'm sharing this. Take what you want, leave the rest. But to me, I was like, this isn't even about me. This isn't even about my comfort necessarily. It's not even about, you know, any of that. It's about him and his experience and his emergence into the world and his story. And how can I make it the most peaceful, calm, beautiful, empowering, natural, letting my body do what she's naturally designed and created to do, and bring him into the world that way? Like, what different of a story am I helping him write? And again, things happen, and he's going to do whatever he needs for his own soul contract. My body and me are going to go through whatever I need to go through for my soul contract. So things could be different. But when I started to think about how I already feel around masks and everything, I was like, there is no way in mother effing hell that I can do that. I can't. And so I started just researching home births, and I watched a lot of home birth videos because, again, I had never heard of anyone that had done one. I had only seen hospital births, and I had only watched even all these pregnant influencers who are pregnant at the same time as me, where it's like induction, you know, go in, scheduled C-section. Like, it's very much like this kind of cascade of interventions. And again, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just wonder, how much do they know, and how much did they recognize that they have choice here and options and there's different ways versus just here's what we do? Because a lot of doctors will just say, not all doctors, but a lot of doctors will be like, let's get your induction on the books for 39 weeks. Babies aren't even done technically till 40, and technically they can go up to 42 weeks, like 42. And for first-time moms, 41 and a half weeks is actually the average. It's actually the more norm than 40. Where did we decide that babies all of a sudden turn into a pumpkin at 39 weeks, so we need to be induced? Now, again, inductions save lives, but how many of them are happening because we simply don't know better? We simply don't recognize we have a choice. I have a friend. Her doctor straight up stripped her membranes and didn't even ask her. There was no consent there. Because she just was like, oh, that's just what we do. You're ready to have your baby. Boom, done. Goodbye. Have a great day. And she's like, I've sat up and there's blood all over. And I'm like, holy fuck. And I'm in pain. And I'm like, my back did this thing. And I'm just like wondering how much of this is happening where we don't even know better. And a lot of people tell me, a lot of my girlfriends are like, God, you just know so much more about birth than I did at the time. And I do think that that's an advantage, that I'm having babies. Like, I'm going to be 30 next year. And all of my friends have had kids, and all of my like siblings and everyone in my life has had babies. And so I've gotten to learn kind of vicariously through other people. And I also feel like 2020 is such a gift because it's woken me up to so much where I'm like, oh my God, like I need to research this. I need to educate myself. But these are the things I want, is for women to remember, the completely perfectly designed body and vessel that you have. Right? The infinite wisdom that she holds, the opportunities and the options that you have, the voice that you have to advocate for yourself and your baby and your children, the ability to stand up for yourself, to demand truth. And again, it's not even just about pregnancy. Like, this is just one example, but even like with what's going on right now, or like if your body is telling you that something doesn't feel right, my question and my curiosity for you is, do you trust that? Do you allow that? Or do you judge that? Or do you shame that? Or do you tune it out? Right? I just wonder, like, and here's the thing. I have a lot of people that will tell me, like, don't have a birth plan. It's just gonna, you know, you'll just get attached to it and you'll just be disappointed and whatever. And I get what they're saying. And again, like, I see you. Thank you. And also, stop telling me and trying to dictate my experience. I recognize it's coming from a beautiful place, but at the same time, I'm not naive. I'm not dumb. I'm not like even like young, 16-year-old having a baby. Like, I'm an adult. I do my research. I look into things. And so people coming at me all the time with like, don't get too attached. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Like, I want to focus on what I do desire when it comes to pregnancy, when it comes to birth, when it comes to, running a business and having it. Like, I will figure it out for myself. I will. I'm capable. And so are you, right? Like, and again, I get it. And if I ask for advice, totally freaking different. But how many of us are just walking around kind of just like throwing things at people, thinking that it's helpful, but A, we didn't ask consent, and B, we're trying, how do I want to say this? We're trying to be helpful, but it's actually not helpful. Like, again, like, especially this, far into this, like, people are telling me how they feel about home births and kind of, again, bringing in these scary things. Or if I talk about the big V word, and then they bring in their like, oh, well, do you want your child to die? And all this shit. And I'm like, whoa, bro, like, take your fear and your shit somewhere else. I see you, I hear you, but like, I don't have to. See, look I'm even like skipping because they just freaking know, because I say the things that they don't want us to hear. Fucking hate that shit. It drives me crazy. But this is where, the reason I'm sharing this is because I want you to go back into the body and recognize that you are so empowered and so equipped with something that maybe you don't even have a statistic for, because who the hell even cares? But in your body, when something feels true and something doesn't, when something feels aligned and something doesn't. We were even talking about this on my last In the Roots mastermind call. We were chatting about this, where alignment is like this buzzword, right? Like, oh, is it in alignment? All of this. Alignment isn't something that happens in your brain. It's not something that happens in your mind. It's not something that happens in a statistic or in the research that you do. That can be helpful, but alignment and truth and discernment and conviction happens in the body, right? So when I'm looking at a home birth versus a hospital birth, yes, I did absolutely do research. And I looked at stories on both sides, and I heard stories on both sides. And then how I made my decision was I come back into the body, I drop in and down, and I feel into that infinite wisdom of my womb space that all of us have. And I tap into that. It's energetic. Even if you don't have a womb, you still have this energetic portal here. This is our power center, okay? And I tap into that, and I feel into the right decision for me and for my body and for my family. And I anchor so deeply into that I'm able to move other people's fear, other people's projections, other people's trauma, other people's shit out. I don't have to have room for that. I do not have to receive that, right? And so when I was deciding hospital versus home, I knew in my body without a shadow of a doubt, I have to do it this way. And again, if things happen, I've got a plan, I've got a backup. It's all about just getting baby here so safely, but it's not just about this whole idea of like, well, at least you have a healthy, happy baby. Well, also, how are we taking care of mom? How are we taking care of your experience? Are you feeling like you're being validated and listened to? And do you have a birth team that trusts you to know what's best for you and your baby? Right? Are you allowing for that? Are you asking when these doctors are wanting to do these extra vaginal exams or these extra tests or these things, and they're just going along with things? Are you saying, something doesn't feel right in my body about this? Okay, what are the risks? What are the benefits? What are the alternatives? Right? What is my intuition saying? Is this like a necessary thing? Is this just what we do? Like, can I sign a consent form? Like, give me the different pieces and then let me sit with it. Can I get back to you? Can I have a few minutes, right? And really being able to make a conscious, embodied, sovereign decision around any of this. Again, whether you're pregnant or not, around your body, your well-being, your vitality, your life, your business, right? Any of these aspects. Lindsay says we research everything that involves our kids, medical practices especially. Exactly, 100,000%. I love that. And that's just it. Trust me, I'm doing the exact same thing. And I always thought like, oh, I would do this and I would give them all of the shots and I would do, very much like I just didn't think about it. And then this year shook me, quite honestly, cracked me open raw, wide open. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much more here. Interesting, right? Interesting. What's here for me? What is the truth here, right? So I want us to feel into that in terms of even what's going on right now, okay? So obviously I speak a lot of truth about what's going on. there's no denying that. I'm willing to say the things. That is part of my voice, my purpose, and personally I do it because I'm becoming a mom. Like, I probably before this year would have just kind of tuned it all out, but something about bringing in a new generation who's like this perfect little starseed who's so powerful, and your kids are too, and we're raising this next wave of truth seekers and freedom fighters and powerful voices and potent souls, and these humans that have this divine mission to continue our legacy like far after we're gone, of like creating this new paradigm. Like, it's a whole thing. Like, these kids, like, we thought we were intuitive, we thought we were cool, we thought we were ooh, we're so spiritual and so woke, like, no, like, these babies coming in right now and these children that are being raised, which is like a whole other conversation, because I just think about what's happening right now and how we're actually diluting their power by masking them, keeping them home from school, giving them just every single injection. Like, if you look at the amount of V's, I can't even say the word. Hi Ashley, hello Sarah. That these kids get versus what we got. And again, no judgment, no shame. If you do your research and that's what feels intuitively right for you, freaking go for it. But I just wonder how much of us, like, keeping them behind screens all day, right? That, like, there's kids that are crying because their eyes are bleeding. We're keeping them apart. They're not allowed to be with their friends. Like, we are these darker forces at play. They know what they're doing. Let's go ahead and numb them out and turn them off and tune them out, disconnect them from their power. And then the dark can win, right? Because these little children are light embodied. Like, they are absolute light beyond anything that we even were, right, as children. And it's so wild to me. It's so freaking wild. Very much like how back in the day, when the witches were burned at the stake and the patriarchy took women apart from each other, because we used to survive in tribes, right? As women, we used to, always, we were working together, and we had these beautiful communities and these beautiful tribes, and we did all this beautiful, like, divine feminine work together, and we practiced our manifestation and our intuition and our witchiness and all of this stuff. And then we were dangerous because we were powerful. So they broke us up, they pitted us against each other, comparison, competition, jealousy, all of this bullshit. And then we had our magic and our power diluted until recently. Women have started to take it back, right? And we've woken up to our power, woken up to our womb, woken up to our wisdom, our gifts and our magic and our light. And I see that. That's when I tune into my channels. Again, take your own information. But when I tune in, that's the message that I get, is that's what we're doing to children. This is a war on our kids. You look at the increase in child trafficking, human trafficking, but even more so child trafficking, right? Like, this shit is real. And so, it could be a whole other conversation, but it's so interesting that we're being taught and conditioned and programmed to believe that our bodies are broken. Like, we're being conditioned right now to believe that, our bodies are flawed and we need XYZ in order for them to work properly. And it's just not true. Your body is so freaking wise. And as we're navigating this right now, both in the world, and maybe you're pregnant and so you're going through this too, or, we've got all these different things and these truths coming out and these, theories that are making themselves known, and people are speaking truth and they're getting shut down. I just want to ask you, you can stay informed, and you can, again, I'm not naive to how pregnancy can be unpredictable and birth can happen, and, in certain ways that I didn't plan for and whatever. So, like, I had to research C-sections. I researched inductions. I researched, and I looked at things very much like what's going on in the world right now. I look at what's going on. I'm not dumb. I'm not naive. I'm not above or blissfully ignorant and, like, tuning out from what's going on. But I do know how to come back into hope and faith and the vision that I want to create. Versus if I am seeing everything through the lens of everything is fucked up, everything is wrong, everything is bad, everything is dangerous, everything's going to shit, oh my God, the world's ending, oh my God, this is the apocalypse, like some people do. And there's this fear narrative, right, that's being, like, spewed at us left and freaking right. I mean, since when have we ever had a virus where we have a death ticker on the freaking TV? Like, since when have we ever been so plugged into fear and control, right? They do that to control us 1000%. So if we are looking at things through the lens that something is wrong and something isn't how it should be, and there's a judgment there, then that is the energy and the frequency that we are putting out into the world, right? If I am looking at just birth through this lens of things could go wrong, there's trauma there. It's, and I'm looking at it through the lens of everyone's trauma and everyone's traumatic experiences and how everything goes wrong and whatever it might be, that is what I am creating and putting out into the world. I am literally putting energy there. And then that's the energy that's feeding into my body, because fear attracts more fear, right? And then I'm in disease. I am in suffering. I am in a state of, again, this judgment and this division in my body. And then that's the energy I'm putting into the collective. And that is feeding this like festering pile of poop that's happening in our world right now. And granted, I do have this truth of like, everything's happening for a reason. It's so beautiful. It will make sense one day. This is the great reckoning. Like, the old world has to crumble. What was created in fear can't exist here. So like, there's goodness here. And there's also real freaking shit happening. So can I honor and acknowledge that, right? Again, not be blissfully ignorant and go live under a rock, but can I opt out and attune to what I do desire and start to see through the lens of what I want to create? Can I live in an energy of being inspired by the type of birth that I want to have versus all of the things that I don't want to have? Can I focus on the type of world that I want to raise my children in versus, oh my God, this is such a scary, fucked up world. And, I've had people tell me that, how could you bring a baby into this? How could you bring a kid into this? I'm sorry, but we need these little star seeds. We need these light workers and these leaders and these truth seekers and these ones willing to come in right now and lead the way. Because that's what's going to happen. We might not see in our lifetime the fullness and the fullest capacity of what we're creating in this world right now. We might not get to see it, but they will. Their kids will. Life doesn't stop moving forward. And that's what terrifies me right now with all of this bullshit, of all of these mandates and these lockdowns, is we're so afraid of dying. We are so hooked into fear that we're no longer living. We are no longer being empowered, equipped, willing to stand up and have a voice. Like, we're not leading. A lot of us are cowering and like, oh my God, maybe the world is ending. And my heart hurts. My heart hurts if that's how you see it, because I can only imagine how much it hurts and how painful it is to live in that much fear. But you don't have to. That's what they want. These darker forces at play. I mean, this is a spiritual war manifested in physical reality, 1000%. That's what they want. When you are in fear, you are disconnected from your power. When you are in trauma, you can't access your discernment. You are living completely in survival mode. When you are anxious and in chaos and you're spinning out, you're going to seek to anything that will give you some false sense of safety, which means you are controllable, which means you are no longer sovereign, you are hooked in. They've got you exactly where they want you. If more of us start standing up, we come back into our energetic sovereignty, we use our voice, we question the narrative, we remain curious, we keep our eyes open, we start to really honor what our body is saying of like, something doesn't add up here, man. Something is off. And we start to lead with that. And we start to honor that. Right? We start to trust that. What kind of world will we start to create? What kind of society will we live in? Because if we are only focused, if we are so wrapped up on what is wrong, and we're in this judgment energy, right? Of like, oh my gosh, then we're adding to it. We are in this like something isn't how it should be. And then we're disconnected from faith. We're disconnected from divinity. We're disconnected from the bigger picture at play. We're not able to access our divine mission. And it's not about spiritual bypassing, and it's not about, again, being naive. It's not about just like, la, 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 everything's going to be fine. Like, it's not all about love and light, positive vibes only. Like, you got to deal with your shit. If you're afraid, honor that. I am really freaked out right now. I'm scared. I'm anxious, right? And can you be with that? Can you honor that? Can you validate that of like, it's okay. It's okay. Breathing into it, feeling it in the body. What are the sensations that this fear is bringing up for you? Can you place your hands there, right? And just honor, like, this is hard. Because it is freaking hard. There are days where I'm like, how drunk was I when I signed my soul contract? like, why did I choose this? Why didn't I go somewhere where I could be a princess in Egypt and have grapes fed to me all day long? Why did I choose, America 2020 during like the craziest year ever? But it's because we're powerful. It's because we were primed and prepared for this. It's because this world needed you. Your gifts, your voice, your truth, your discernment, your knowingness, your vision, your energy, your frequency, your medicine. And so when we start to live in this energy of like, everything's exactly how it's meant to be, right? As Peter Crone would say, like, everything is exactly how it's meant to be right now. Like, this is the energy of I can be in harmony with what is, even when it's painful, even when it's challenging, even when it's hard. And I can hold space for what inspires me, what drives me, what is calling me. And, that only happens when you're in your body. That only can happen when you're present. If you're only in your mental space or you're in your intellect, right? Or you're future casting and swept up there, or you're in the past and you're there. If we call that energy back into the body and we recognize like, I am okay, I am safe, I am at peace, I am held, I am supported, like everything is exactly how it's meant to be in this exact moment. And we breathe into that and we feel that in the body. And then we tap into, what do I desire from this space? Not from a trauma space, right? Not from this like activated charged space of like kind of like zooming out and like trying to see what everybody else wants. Or not from any of that, from really being sovereign, grounded, in reverence, presence of like, okay, if I'm here in this moment, what do I desire? I'm unhooked from everybody else's bullshit. And here's what's coming through for me. And that's what I'm doing for my birth, is I'm shifting the energy. When I get that fear, that trauma response of like, oh my God, but what about this? And what if this happens? And oh my God, I heard this one story and like this, and I start to spin out. I bring my energy back. I drop in and down. I hold myself there. I start to shift that energy as I'm allowing it, I'm expressing it, I'm holding myself in it, I'm validating it. And then from there, I can start to say, well, how do I want it to go? If there were no ifs, ands, or buts about it, what do I desire? And that's how I knew it has to be at home. As long as I'm safe and baby's safe and everything's okay. And, there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, but like, what if I can't handle it? And then I have to remind myself my body was designed for this. It's me and baby working together. It's going to be okay. I'm so supported. How can I continue to prep my body physically, right? So bouncing on my birthing ball and drinking my red raspberry leaf tea and doing my Pilates and my bar workouts and really making sure I'm stretching everything out and I'm staying in the right position so that baby stays head down. Am I preparing my perineum to make sure that I have as minimal tearing as possible, different things along those lines. How am I preparing spiritually and energetically, right? Really being with like this transition and being with what is and being with the energy of everything. Really honoring that, having really, deep committed spiritual practice and energetic practice of how I'm honoring and really, nurturing my energy every day? And really, again, even if you're not giving birth, how are you tending to your energy right now? This world, social media, influencers, like the media, mainstream media, like it'll all tell you how to feel. It'll tell you what to think and what to believe. If you're not vigilant in energetic protection and in your own body and mindset and really unhooking from all of that, the world will tell you what to believe. And I'm telling you, it's not good shit. But if you can continue moving that through and moving that out and anchoring back into your truth, coming back to hope, coming back into what's possible, coming back into faith, coming back into, desire and joy and pleasure and thriving. Like, even though, that was a big one. Even though, let me take a sip of my tea. Let me breathe for a second. Now that it's cold. Ooh, okay. Even though the world is in deep suffering right now, there's no denying that. My heart breaks for those that are suffering. I think of those that have lost loved ones due to this virus. I think of those that have suffered themselves through the medical issues that come with it. I think about, the lives lost. I think about the people that are having their businesses shut down. I think of the people that are suffering mentally, and the mental health is completely in, disarray after being locked up and isolated for so long. I think about, the suicides. I think about, the kids not being in school and not being able to see their friends. I think about the kids that are starving. I think about the kids that are trafficked. Like, there is no denying, no matter what side you're on, that there is massive suffering happening right now. There is massive suffering happening right now. We can hold that. We can validate that. We can honor that. We can recognize that and thrive. We can recognize and honor that and validate that and hold that and focus on joy and pleasure and safety and expansion and healing. Energy is everything. That's then the energy that we bring into the collective. That is how we continue to heal suffering. Is what are you anchoring into? What are you embodying? What are you in every day? And again, it's not about bypassing your humanity. The days that you are suffering, the days that you are in fear, be with that. You have to express it. You have to embody it, or it's just going to turn into frozen energy in the body, and then that's trauma, and then you're going to have to heal that someday as well, right? Like, this is about honoring your humanity, honoring other people's humanity, and also remembering our divinity, remembering our sacredness, remembering our vitality, remembering our wellness, remembering our wholeness and our worthiness and our greatness. Remembering that we can be with both. I can hold both. Me being in joy isn't me bypassing or invalidating someone who is not in joy. That is me holding the resonance of that energy in my body so that is what I am emitting into the collective. That is my medicine. That is how I am continuing to raise the vibration of the planet, by continuing to come back to my light. Honoring my humanity, honoring that dark when it comes up, honoring those shadows, being with that, and continuing to remember my light. The light transmutes the darkness. The joy alchemizes the pain. The safety alchemizes the fear, right? And it's just these layers and these layers and these layers. Because what's happening right now is that we're healing collective trauma on such a freaking deep level. And it feels messy and it feels chaotic and it feels painful as hell some days. There have been plenty of days down on my knees of like, what in the actual hell is happening, right? Like, oh my God. I think about the days where it's like one thing after the other and I'm like, God, could things get any freaking worse? And I think about the people that have it so much worse than I do. And I'm like, how can there be so much pain and so much suffering? But we had to have this happen in order for more of us to wake up and more of us to really take responsibility and come back into our power and really make sure that we are holding space for and holding the energy of where we're going. We are in a great reckoning. What was created in fear, what was created in trauma, can't exist in this new world. So it's crumbling, and that's painful. If you've ever had an infection, right, that shit oozing out is uncomfortable and it's painful and it hurts, right? But it has to happen in order for the healing to be able to come through. In order for us to be able to hold more light, we have to continue purging the dark. But when we are hooked into the matrix, right, the game that we're all playing right now, this 3D reality, that's one dimension, it's one layer of all of the different pieces at play, which is a whole other conversation. If you haven't listened to that episode on the podcast, my podcast, Olivia, Seline, the podcast with Pilar, highly recommend. But if we are hooked into and we're spinning out and we're in anxiety and we're just like completely like in this mind controlled part of the game, we're not able to bring more light in. We're exactly where they want us. We're divided. We're hating each other. We're canceling each other. We're in our unhealthy ego of like, I know what's right and you're wrong because you think differently than me. Let me shut you down. Let me shut you up. Right? We label people. We assume shit. And there's a hell of a lot of that happening right now. How is that supportive? How is that helpful? It's not. Again, we're being hijacked. We're exactly where they want us. So how are you continuing to, and this conversation went a whole different way than I was thinking it was going to, but what are you focusing on? Where are you putting your energy? How are you protecting your energy? What are you keeping in and what are you keeping out? Are you attuning to everyone else all the time and like just sensitive to what everyone else is feeling and experiencing? Or are you turning your clairsentient channels back in and attuning to yourself? Being deeply sensitive to your own feelings, your own energy, your own emotions, your own body. Do you know how to discern in the body, not on your pro-con list in your mind? Do you know how to discern truth from distortion? Do you know, have you played with that? These sensations that we're feeling in our body, and I talked about this on a previous live, so I won't go too much into it, the one on anxiety. When you're feeling anxious or chaotic or out of control, or you're spinning out and you're grasping and you're in a trauma response, your body is communicating with you. She's saying, hey, come back to me. I hold the answers that you're seeking. I have the codes that you're needing. I hold the key. Will you listen to me? Will you trust me? Will you honor what I'm sharing with you? Are you honoring yourself? Are you remembering yourself? Are you trusting yourself? This is so important right now. Like Madison, one of my mentors, has said, we need you well. If you're hooked in and you're spinning out and you're completely disembodied and disconnected, you cannot do your work. So can you return to the body? Can you drop in and down, feeling into that infinite wisdom in your womb? Feeling into your heart, which connects you to the collective, right? And feel into from there. What am I meant to say, right? Where am I meant to go? What am I meant to do? How am I meant to show up? What's coming through me? How am I being used today? What do I need today? What do I desire? Where are we going? And I just wonder, what would start to shift? What would start to shift? if we started to make our decisions from that space. Again, not to spiritually bypass. We don't do that here. I'm all about feeling it all. Your freaking humanity has so much space here. But don't forget your sacredness. Don't forget your divinity. Don't forget that you are a powerful, magical creator. You hold so much light, so much love, so much greatness in your body. The key to liberation it's not in our mind. It's not in a certain president. It's not in, shots or no shots. Like, it's in your body. It's in your discernment. It's in you taking up all of your space. It's in you being so connected to your soul and your heart and your spirit, your divine mission. It's in you using your voice when you're convicted. It's in you honoring and trusting when something doesn't feel right, instead of just going with the flow, going with the narrative. It's you being able to pause and be like, wait a second, something isn't adding up here. Or, oof, that doesn't feel good. Or, oh, whoa, that felt heavy, that felt dense, that felt dark, that felt damp. Something is off here. And instead of questioning it or trying to figure it out, we just trust it. I disengage from that. I unhook from that. I come back into my energy. And I'm very clear about what I'm available for and what I'm not. So I think that that's what I want to leave you with, is really getting into your body right now. Getting into your discernment right now. I know I brought it a lot back to like birth and how that has helped me in making my decision of going from hospital to home birth. Trusting that my body was made for this. Trusting that my body is so freaking wise. Really honoring myself in this season, even though that might mean that I disappoint other people or let other people down. And really being mindful of what I'm focusing my energy on. Am I constantly hooked in? Am I constantly spinning out? Am I constantly taking everything in from everybody else? Or am I so filled up with my own energy, taking up all of my own space, that I'm able, there's not even room here for other people's projections and other people's shit, even when it comes from a well-meaning place, right? Right now too, especially I talk a lot of truth on my social media, and I share things that are very controversial and taboo, and people will ask me they'll want to share their point of view, and I'm like, you're always welcome to share it, but I at this point, especially this late in my pregnancy and where I'm at in this season of life, I don't really have the capacity. I know where I stand. I know what my truth is. I know what my discernment is. I honor that you have a differing point of view, but I don't have to engage with that. I can respect and honor where you're at and hold so much space for mine. It's the same thing with birth stories people want to share, and I'm like, no trauma, no traumatic birth stories. I've got plenty in my subconscious that I continue moving out. And I recognize that people are just trying to be helpful and I want to, I wish I would have known this and I wish I would have known this, but I move it out. I don't have space for that. I don't have capacity for that. I honor and validate your experience, but I'm so hyper-focused on only allowing what feels true for me in my body and what feels aligned for me in my body, not in my head, but in my alignment is in the body, not in the head. It's in the body, in the body, in the body. I'm going to keep saying that. But really and truly, I honor, but I don't have capacity for that. I don't have to, And so really being mindful right now too of your energetic boundaries, your mental and emotional boundaries, your physical boundaries, speaking up for yourself, unhooking from other people's perceptions of you, their judgments, their assumptions of you. They're going to think whatever the hell they damn well please. I can't tell you how many people have gotten me so wrong, and I honor that. I get it. I've assumed things about other people. That's my prerogative. That's your prerogative. We have that right. But can you unhook? Where are you diluting yourself? Where are you diluting yourself, disclaimering yourself, fluffing, over justifying, trying to be politically correct all the time? walking on eggshells. Like I see so many, influencers doing this right now too. And they're wondering why they're so anxious, or why they're having really, horrible breakouts, or they're wondering why they're, really suffering right now. And I'm like, what would happen? And not that it's always as black and white as like, oh, it's because you're deluding yourself. But I wonder if we stopped trying to disclaimer ourselves all the time, and we stopped trying to pussyfoot around everything and tiptoe, walk on eggshells, and we just owned what felt real for us from a really sovereign, grounded, loving space. When I'm connected to my heart, when you're connected to your heart, you cannot do any harm. So it's not about just like walking around being a bitch in the name of like, I'm just being me. Okay, well, if you're still being a bitch and you're like in your ego, then that's probably not like the greatest energy to be putting out. Like that's not necessarily you being super sovereign. That's you being, and again, if that's the part you want to play, go play that part. That's fine. I don't want to play that part, right? When I connect into my heart space, I connect into the collective. I feel other people. And I'm able to take up all of my own space and be me, knowing that that's what's needed in that moment. Does that make sense? I feel like that could be a whole other conversation. So let me know if that makes sense. But really and truly, I want people to start allowing yourself to be unfiltered. Stop trying to make yourself palatable and digestible for everybody, because you're not going to be. You're going to trigger someone. You're going to offend someone. You're not going to belong at someone's table. There's going to be shit talked about you. There's going to be assumptions, thrown around. That's going to happen. Happens to me all the time. And it is what it is. I know who I am. I know my conviction. I know my values. I know my heart. And I continue to anchor back into that. And I make my decisions from that space. I share my truth. I use my voice from that space. And as much as I love, I don't know if I want to go into this yet. Let me feel into this. Hold on a second. Okay. I'm going to leave it at this. Maybe for real this time. But I saw this graphic posted the other day, this like quote graphic from, I believe it's the Holistic Mother on Instagram. I'll have to share it in my stories because I haven't shared it yet, because I've been really like sitting with it and kind of meditating and praying on like, do I share this? Do I not? She shared this quote about how she says, I wonder if pregnant influencers started sharing more about health and decisions you make during pregnancy, using your voice, being an advocate for yourself, asking questions, knowing, like having true informed consent, the big V word, VAX is what I'll say. Don't want to get shut down. If we started talking more about that with the giant audiences that they have, instead of just talking about my oversized sweater, this really cool, baby holder, all of these things that, again, those aren't bad. I follow a lot of those people, and I find it really interesting, and I think it's a great way too to like turn my brain off sometimes of just like kind of consuming very like surface level content. I'm not saying that there's not a place for that. But she said, I wonder like what would shift? How many more women would be empowered? How many more people would go, oh, interesting, I've never thought about it that way, or ooh, let me look more into that. And that's like what we started to share more of. What kind of like next generation would we be raising? Like how much more, again, empowered and informed and equipped would we feel as women raising children, because we've got that kind of seed planted, versus just focusing on pregnant fashion. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that, but like she said it and it convicted me like so deeply, because I've been very quiet about talking about some of these things, decisions I'm making for my baby and different things I've researched and looked at. But at the same time, how can I not talk about it? I'm going to offend someone. I am going to trigger someone. There will be people that no longer follow me. It's happened. I've had more unfollows this year than like I can count. And I honor and respect everyone doing what's best for them. And I'm willing to say it how it is. But I just wonder, because it's not about me. When I think about it, I'm like, it's not fucking about me or my follower count or how popular I am or, you know, XYZ or how many friends I have. It's about, am I honoring my truth and my conviction and my values, not for me, but for him? Because again, like, right, what's happening right now is a war on our children. And a mom's intuition, a woman's intuition is so freaking powerful that if we were being taught to tune into it and start questioning the freaking narrative, I just wonder, like, again, it's not about us even rallying for us or for notoriety or for fame or for anything. It's for us rallying for them. My liberation is his liberation, right? I'm setting the stage, I'm setting the tone for him. And I don't know if it gets much more powerful than that, truly. So why I brought that up, which again, I could riff on that on a whole different thing. I'm still sitting with like processing it, because again, there's a both and here. But I just wonder, like, where are you being called to use your voice? Where are you being called to use your discernment, to question things, to be curious about things? Where are you feeling it, but you're not trusting it or you're not honoring it? Whether it's pregnancy or birth or all the shit that's happening in 2020, whether you're in the States or not, like, are you trusting those little nudges that's like, ooh, that energy feels different. Oof, that doesn't feel right. There's something more there. And can we come back into that? Your body has infinite wisdom. And we have to keep moving the fear and moving the trauma and moving the energies that are trying to keep you from that. That's part of the embodiment work, the energetic work, the somatic work, the trauma work that I do, is continuing to move more of that, but getting you back into your body so you can liberate yourself. Because when you can tune into your discernment and into your body's wisdom and your intuition and these keys and these codes that you hold, my friends, like, you liberate the hell out of yourself. And when you're liberated, that energy feeds into the collective. Where we're going as a collective, where we're going as a world, as a country, it's liberation, man. It really is. And so there's these fear narratives and this constant control and this, division and all this shit, like, please opt out. Please, for the love of sweet baby Jesus. Like, again, like, I have to be so mindful, because it'll cut me off here in a minute. But be with that. What is your body trying to communicate with you? What is your discernment saying? How much worse do things have to get before we start to question? I mean, only you get to decide that for you, and I honor that and I respect that. But be vigilant in your energy management. Be vigilant in taking care of yourself, your health, your well-being, your nervous system, your heart, your energy. Like, this, it's important. Physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, like, energetic, all of it. It all has a place. Okay? And focus on, where are we headed? What do I want to create? And even if we each sat with that, maybe that's what I'll do next on live, is I'll do a meditation or something for us to all just sit with that and, like, blast our light into it. But if everything's exactly how it should be right now, even when it's painful, even when it's hard, even when it's challenging, and I can be with that, I can be so present with that, of like, okay, like, I'm at peace with what is, I've got acceptance there. And I honor my humanity when she shows up. I honor these feelings and energies that are moving through me that are less than ideal. And as I move that and I come back into heart, I come back into desire, I come back into my soul, my divine mission, what feels so freaking true for me in my body. Okay, I'm anchored there. And here's where I access hope and faith and light. And I can focus on what I am creating. Not living in a reactionary state. Not living in a fear-based state of like, oh my God, the world is ending. But always coming back to living in a way that's inspiring me to keep going. start to play with that. How does that feel in the body? How do things start to shift in your life when you honor that and you remember that and you trust that? Okay? So that's what I'm going to leave you with. I love you. Me and my cold ass tea. If you have further questions about this, feel free to post them below. I'll post this to IGTV if it will let me. I'll put it on the podcast if I can get good audio from it. And I love you. I see you. You know, I'm so grateful to be connected with you here, and I cannot wait to keep you updated on the journey. I will say one boundary, okay? I'm going to say one boundary here. Please do not ask me if I've gone into labor yet or any of that. I will update you when I feel called to update you. It might be when I go into labor. We might make it so that we just kind of do our thing and then we share when baby's here. But the one thing I know that I'm so fucking particular about, that I've learned, is that I do not need other people's anxiety and pressure and like energy around me when I'm trying to be in the most calm, peaceful, letting this boy come through and however he's going to come through way. And I know people mean well. I just see it happening a lot too. Like a lot of people are pregnant right now, and I watch these influencers who are like, I haven't posted since, you know, I only post at noon, and then you guys message me all morning asking if I've had my baby. Ha ha ha. And I just wonder if we stopped putting so much pressure on our bodies and our babies, if they would come without needing to always be induced, right? Because like they're feeding off of our nervous system and they're feeding off of the energy. And if it doesn't feel safe, because it's like there's pressure and there's anxiety there, they're not going to come out. So I love you, and I love that you guys are so invested, and I love getting to share this with you, and I promise. Like I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to share him, because I've got a lot of feelings. Again, 2020 woke me up a lot, so I'm not totally sure how much I'll share of him, but you guys will absolutely get to meet him in some capacity. We'll share the name, we'll share all the things, but please don't bang down my inbox asking, you know, does he do yet? Because that just gives me anxiety and it puts pressure on my body, because I do not want to be induced if at all possible. So I'm trying to just like surrender, be at peace and calm around it, trusting his process, trusting my body's process, and he will initiate labor when he's ready. I don't get to initiate it. I really hope a doctor doesn't have to initiate it. Maybe the dates that I'm eating will initiate it. But we're going to trust. We're just going to continue to surrender to that. So I love you. Again, thank you for honoring that for me. And I can't wait to share this with you all. I love you. Have the most beautiful rest of your day. Go be empowered. Go get informed. Go access your discernment. Go touch base with your beautiful body, your beautiful womb space, your beautiful wisdom, and keep using your voice. This world needs it. This world needs your light. And if you're struggling with that, message me. Let's get you inside of In the Roots. I would love to serve you and support you there. It's where I do some of my most potent work right now, especially going into birth and everything. I don't know when I'll be launching something again, and I don't know, you know, as far as one-on-one clients go, it's really a time for me to pull back. So In the Roots is where you can really get the fullness of me right now for a really, really accessible, in a really accessible way for not everyone, because I know everyone's accessibility is different, but I tried to make it as accessible as possible for as many as possible. So I love you so much. Stay well, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Oh my God, how do I end it? Oh my God, my worst nightmare.